It's a Tuesday morning. Quiet office, nobody else in yet. The kind of silence where you can hear the coffee machine from 3 rooms away. Nathan Cole sits at his desk, and he does not move. He has been there since 5 a.m. In front of him is a laptop. On the screen, an email. One email. He wrote it the night before, read it 17 times, changed one word on the 14th read, changed it back on the 16th, and now he is just sitting with it. You would think, watching him, that he was nervous. But nervous is not the right word. You know how a surgeon looks before they make the first cut? That kind of stillness, that kind of focus, the kind that only comes from a person who has been preparing for something for a very, very long time. He picks up his coffee, takes one sip, sets it down. Then he moves the cursor to the send button, and he stops. Not because he is uncertain, not because he is having second thoughts. He stops because he wants to feel the weight of this moment. He has earned this moment. 18 months of silence, 18 months of watching, 18 months of saying nothing, while the man sitting in the office next door helped himself to everything Nathan had built. You want to know what was in that email? So did every single person whose name was in the recipient list. 31 people, clients, investors, attorneys, and one man who, in approximately 4 minutes, was going to walk through that front door, say good morning, pour himself a coffee, and have absolutely no idea that his entire world was about to end. Nathan clicks send, sits back, and waits. Welcome to Revenge Reckoning. My name is not important. What's important is the story, and this one, I promise you, is going to stay with you. To understand what Nathan did, you have to understand what he built. And to understand what he built, you have to understand Ryan Marsh. Ryan was the kind of man who made you feel chosen. That was his gift, and he knew it. When he walked into a room, the room rearranged itself around him. He was tall, magnetic, the kind of guy who remembered your wife's name and your dog's name and somehow made that feel genuine rather than calculated. He had an easy laugh and a handshake that felt like a promise. Nathan met him in 2017 at an industry conference in Atlanta. They were seated at the same table for dinner, and by the time dessert came, they were finishing each other's sentences about supply chain strategy. By midnight, they were at the hotel bar, sketching a business model on a cocktail napkin. 2 years later, Cole Marsh Logistics Consulting was billing just under $2 million a year. Nathan ran operations, Ryan ran relationships. It was a clean division. Nathan built the engine, Ryan drove it into rooms and sold it, and it worked. For 3 years, it worked beautifully. You have to understand the trust that kind of partnership builds. These are not colleagues, they are not employees. They are people who have sat across from each other at the lowest moments. A client who walked, a contract that collapsed, a year where the margins were so thin that both of them deferred their own salaries for 60 days. You build something with a person through moments like that, and you stop questioning them. You just stop. That is exactly what Ryan was counting on. A client who walked, a contract that collapsed, a year where the margins were so thin that both of them deferred their own salaries for 60 days. You build something with a person through moments like that, and you stop questioning them. You just stop. That is exactly what Ryan was counting on. It started in month 1 with something so small that most people would have blinked past it. An invoice from a vendor Nathan did not recognize. $1,700. Categorized under operational expenses. Approved through the system correctly with Ryan's authorization. Nathan saw it, filed it in the back of his mind. Not an alarm, just a note. Month 2, a different vendor. $4,200, again correctly entered, again Ryan's sign-off. Ask yourself this, at that point, what would you have done? You trust this man. You have built something real with him. You have seen him sweat through the hard times the same as you. Would you have said something, or would you have told yourself there was probably an explanation and moved on? Nathan did neither. He opened a spreadsheet, private drive, password protected, and he started writing things down. He did not confront. He did not accuse. He did not change anything about his behavior. not his tone in the morning, not the way he said goodbye at the end of the day. He kept showing up, kept working, kept building the company that Ryan was quietly carving up from the inside. Because Nathan had understood something in month 2 that most people would have taken 6 months to figure out. If he said something now, Ryan would stop. And if Ryan stopped, Nathan would only ever know the surface of what had happened. He would not know the depth. He would not know the method. He would not know the full amount. He would have suspicion, but he would not have proof. And proof, Nathan had already decided, was the only currency that mattered. By month 6, the spreadsheet had 43 entries, 43 separate transactions across 11 different vendor names, totaling just under $60,000. Here is the part that would keep you up at night. Every single vendor was a shell. Ghost companies with websites that looked real, professionally designed, phone numbers that rang out to voicemail, email addresses that responded with auto-replies. Ryan had built them over the course of what must have been months before the first invoice ever appeared. This was not impulsive. This was not opportunistic. This man had sat across from Nathan at lunch and laughed about an industry colleague who had been caught stealing from his firm, had called him an idiot, had said he could never understand how someone could do that to a partner, while the invoices were already drafted and waiting. You want to talk about a cold human being? That is cold. Had called him an idiot, had said he could never understand how someone could do that to a partner, while the invoices were already drafted and waiting. You want to talk about a cold human being? That is cold. And Nathan sat across from him, nodded, said, "Some people, man." And that night added the conversation to a separate document he was keeping. A log, dates, times, context. The kind of documentation that, down the line, would make a forensic accountant's job very, very easy. What would you have done at month 6? $60,000. Ironclad evidence. The man is sitting 10 feet away from you every single day. Would you have held it together? Would you have walked in there and confronted him? Or would you have done what Nathan did? Closed the laptop, gone home, and slept like a person who knows exactly what is coming. By month 12, the number was $160,000. Nathan had long since hired a private forensic accountant, a woman named Gloria, 30 years with the IRS before she went private, who Nathan described later as the most terrifying and the most useful person he had ever met in his life. Gloria spent 3 months building an audit trail so complete, so devastatingly documented, that it did not leave Ryan a single escape route. Every shell company traced back to a holding account. Every holding account traced back to a debit card. Every debit card registered to a name that, after one layer of LLC removal, came back to Ryan Marsh. Gloria handed Nathan the report on a Thursday afternoon. 340 pages. Nathan thanked her, paid her invoice immediately, which Gloria later said almost never happened, drove home, and sat in his car in the driveway for 45 minutes. Not crying, not angry, just sitting. You could see something settle in him, people who know him say. Like a decision that had been forming slowly for over a year had finally finished solidifying. He was not the man who had been robbed anymore. He was the man who had documented every step of the robbery, hired the best financial investigator he could find, and was now in possession of evidence so complete that it was almost artistic. He went inside, made dinner, called his mother, watched television. That night, he started drafting the email. Now, before I tell you about that email, and trust me, you want to hear about this email, I have to ask you something. If you have ever been betrayed by someone you trusted completely, a partner, a friend, a colleague, someone you built something real with, you already know there is a version of you that wants to explode. Wants to walk in there, throw the report on the desk, watch the color drain out of their face. Nathan never did that. Not once in 18 months did he give Ryan a single second of suspicion. And that discipline, that almost inhuman restraint, is what made what came next so complete. If this kind of story hits different for you, If you have ever been the person who got taken advantage of by someone they trusted, hit that subscribe button right now. Because every week on this channel, we go deep into the stories of people who refuse to be victims. Hit subscribe and turn on notifications. This one is just getting started. The email took Nathan 11 days to write. Not because he did not know what to say, because he knew that every single word had weight, and he was not going to waste one of them. The recipient list was 31 people. He had spent 2 weeks building it. Their 6 largest active clients, 3 investors who had put early capital into Marsh. The firm's 2 attorneys, one of whom Ryan did not know, Nathan had already briefed privately 3 weeks before, the accountancy firm that handled their books, 2 industry partners with whom they had active referral agreements, a journalist Nathan had met once at a conference who covered financial fraud in the SME sector, to whom Nathan had said nothing yet, and Ryan. Ryan's name was the last address Nathan typed. He did it deliberately. He wanted Ryan's name at the bottom of the list, a full stop. The subject line was 4 words, Marsh. Important update. No drama, no accusation in the headline. Nothing that would cause Ryan to open it on his phone in the car and realize what was happening before he got to the office. Nathan wanted him to read it at his desk, in the building, where Nathan could hear from his own office exactly what 4 minutes of silence followed by a chair scraping back and a door handle turning actually sounded like. The email itself was 2 pages, single-spaced. It opened with 1 paragraph of context, the founding of the firm, the division of responsibilities, the shared vision. 2 sentences, warm, almost nostalgic. Then it said this: over the course of the past 18 months, I have identified and documented a pattern of financial misconduct that requires immediate disclosure to all parties with a material interest in this firm. 1 sentence, no adjectives, no emotion. What followed was a summary. Not the full 340 pages. Those were attached, along with Gloria's cover letter and credentials. The summary was 14 bullet points, each one naming a shell company, a date range, a total amount, and a method of concealment. $193,000 across 18 months, 47 separate transactions. The final paragraph notified all parties that Nathan had already filed a civil claim, that a criminal referral had been submitted to the relevant financial crimes unit, and that he would be operating the firm independently effective immediately, pending legal resolution. It closed with contact details for his attorney. That was it. No, I trusted you. No, how could you? No, I thought we were friends. Nathan Cole did not need to say any of those things because the 14 bullet points said all of it. Every single dollar, every single shell company, every single date. That was the grief and the rage and the betrayal, translated into something that courts understand. Ryan opened the email at 8:47 a.m. Nathan knew the exact time because he had requested read receipts. One more detail Ryan did not know to look for. At 8:51 a.m., the chair scraped. At 8:52 a.m., Ryan appeared in the doorway of Nathan's office. Nathan was at his desk. He had a pen in his hand. He was reviewing a document, a real one, a client brief, and he looked up the way you look up when someone walks into a room you were expecting them to walk into. Ryan's face, by every account of the story, was something to see. Not anger, not even shock. Really, it was the face of a man watching a wall fall on him in slow motion and realizing in that exact moment that the wall had been built specifically for this. He said, "Nathan." Nathan looked at him for a long moment. Then he said, "My attorney will be in touch." And he went back to reading the document. Ryan stood in that doorway for what must have been 10 seconds, which is a very long time to stand in a doorway. Then he left. Cleared his desk in 20 minutes, was gone by 9:15. Nathan did not watch him go. He had a 9:30 client call to prepare for. The civil case settled 14 months later. Nathan recovered $161,000, Not the full amount, but enough, after legal fees, to feel like the math had corrected itself. The criminal referral resulted in a fraud charge that ultimately resolved in a plea agreement. Ryan Marsh does not work in the industry anymore. The firm, now operating under Nathan's name alone, has grown every year since. Ryan called Nathan once, about 3 weeks after that morning. Nathan let it go to voicemail. He never listened to the message. He told a friend later that there was nothing Ryan could say that he needed to hear. The conversation was over. It had ended the moment he clicked send. Some people, when they hear this story, say Nathan was cold, that he should have confronted Ryan sooner, that 18 months of silence was its own kind of cruelty. Maybe. That is a question worth sitting with. But here is the other way to look at it. Ryan Marsh looked at a man who trusted him, who built something with him, who called him a partner, and chose to steal from him. Not once, not impulsively, not because of desperation. $193,000 across 47 transactions using shell companies he had built in advance. That is not a mistake. That is a decision made every single month for 18 months. Nathan just made one decision back, one email, 31 recipients, 14 bullet points, and not a single word wasted.